Hi, my name is Abanto and I'm gonna talk about Session 7, a disparate world, inequality and poverty. How COVID-19 has affected these inequalities. COVID-19 has exposed the weakness in every society and also the exacerbated inequalities between countries. The least developed economies have poor health conditions, health systems that are less prepared to deal with a pandemic. Also, they have people living in conditions that makes them vulnerable to contagion. And they simply do not have the resources that advanced economies have to respond to the economic aftermath. The increase of the gap between the haves and have-nots was a feature of almost every country, even before COVID-19 broke out. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, household disposable incomes was affected significantly all over the world, with the poorest being the most severely hit. The World Bank has warned that the virus could push between 40 and 60 million people into extreme poverty this year. That's why many countries are giving social welfare payments for employees and self-employed people who have lost all their employments due to COVID-19 public health emergency. Sadly, these countries are at least partly constrained by their own infrastructure and the availability of data. The quality and coverage of identification systems and their availability of a trusted and inclusive foundational ID system with other agencies are especially important when these transfers must be paid quickly. For example, do you remember when Peruvians already deceased, dead people, were still on the list of beneficiaries for the bonus given by the Peruvian government? As you can see here. Okay, that happened because of the lack of quality and coverage of identification system in Peru. However, there is still hope for those most affected. During the 2008 and 2009 financial crisis, thanks to the policy intervention, the impact was not as severe as it could have been. That is why discretionary fiscal policy measures will play a significant cushioning role, reducing the size of an income loss. Then we have Session 9, From Dictatorship and Democracy and Failed States. Democracy and dictatorship are two different systems or leadership upon the common people of the state or nation. Democracy allows people to make choices as they are elected by the common people. Dictatorship, on the other hand, does not allow people to make any choice. The dictator himself has chosen to be the only leader of the state or nation and take all the decisions for the people instead of giving them any option or liberty. People always choose or prefer leaders who guide them correctly and give them their basic rights. In the case of democracy, people used to respect the democratic leader. Meanwhile, the Dictators are feared instead of being respected. A dictator has the power to make any decision whether the people like or not. Here we have a short comparative list between democracy and dictatorship. First, democracy. The power is shared between two or more parties. Second, different options are allowed. I mean, you can pick or choose between options. Third, everyone in the community can help to change the laws. Then we have dictatorship. First, there is an authoritarian regime. Second, people's opinions are controlled, not really allowed. Third, only one political party allowed. Fourth, dictator can change the law at any time. Next, we have a failed state. What is a failed state? A failed state is one that cannot guarantee its own function or basic services to the population. For example, Venezuela. How Venezuela can improve? One way is to stabilize the currency. Once this system is in place or stabilized, the government can unify the exchange rate. This is the most damaging imbalance in the economy. It has been causing an inflation-depreciation spiral since the fall of 2012. The fastest and best way to break this cycle is to allow the currency to float. Once the currency begins to stabilize, a lot of US dollars would come back into the country since everything will be cheap for those who have dollars. This is exactly what happened in Argentina in 2002, after a huge devaluation. The government then managed the exchange rate for the next 6 years at a realistic level, and the economy grew very fast since 2003. By unifying the exchange rate at a realistic level and breaking the inflation-depreciation spiral, the Venezuelan government will also avoid having to lose precious reserves that are defending an overvalued currency. Thank you for listening. That was my individual video.